I don't know what Swanee thinks. My view is that Celtic were absolutely nowhere near it. Even when they got back to 2-2, I felt that Rangers I thought they brought Celtic onto them in the second half. I think Celtic's first goal, Maeda's header, great header, but that came from Rangers being sloppy, playing out from the back. I think it was a slack pass from Butland into the middle of the pitch. Yep. And I think Rangers created their own problems at that point. That said, when Celtic get to 2-2, you're thinking there's an inevitability about what comes next. Celtic win.
I felt there's only going to be one winner.
Yeah. But I don't know what it is that Barry Ferguson is like. I don't know, Paul pie and spinach. I don't know what he's got them eating. They look like a different prospect entirely. There's tactically, they're much better. They're much more robust, much more secure, and that's all good in terms of the changes and tweaks that he's made. But it's a mentality thing that he's completely overhauled. That looks like a different group of players, and for them, because even though I think we would have both sensed at 2-2 Celtic go and win this.
Aye.
But Rangers actually sort of regrouped, regathered, you know.
Still kind of look dangerous in the break.
Well, Dessers goes through and does his Dessers moment.
Aye.
You know, only he would do that, chopping back in. And
I will say for Dessers, I think you've Carrick's a torrid time.
He did.
Well, why don't Swanee? I mean, the first half, it wasn't just that Celtic were losing; it was the manager's performance that I thought was really startling.
Yeah, I think it was obviously a huge blow to lose Callum McGregor, and he's the one who kind of dictates and takes control of the situations early in the game. Rangers started really well, won a free kick in the first 30 seconds, sort of pinned Celtic back, the type of thing that Celtic like to do on their own patch to Rangers. And Barry Ferguson said Rangers would make a fast start, and he did. He was as good as his word. Celtic were just really sloppy, just passing, just off. The radar was off all day. They just never got to the pace of the game in the first half.
Off the radar, Swanee. Aye, all right, mate.
They just didn't seem at it. Just too loose. I mean, for the whole season, we've been very praiseworthy of Kasper Schmeichel with the ball at his feet, and even he was making. I mean, why Václav Černý doesn't with his first time with his right peg just roll one
hit it?
No idea. But he just didn't have the confidence in his right foot clearly. But just little things like that epitomised the sort of Celtic first half. And that just spread through the team. Guys just weren't on point. They just weren't where they needed to be.
I have to tell you, Swanee, I think you've absolutely nailed it, and I've mentioned that in my column for tomorrow. Callum McGregor's influence. If anybody doubts Callum McGregor's influence, and I keep saying it, and I know that I'm always raving about Callum McGregor.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
But see what Celtic were missing, and how many times did you see? I mean, it was all throughout the game when the centre halves got the ball or Kasper Schmeichel got the ball. You're crying out for where's Callum McGregor?
They were looking for him.
Callum McGregor naturally creates angles to get a little pocket of space, and the ball gets fed into him, and Celtic build from there.
What he also does, Keith, is sorry to interrupt, Keith. What he also does is he settles other guys into the game by he takes control. He starts to get on it after 10 minutes. We've seen it in plenty of games when Celtic haven't started well. He then, as you say, makes angle. He takes it, then he gives it to someone and gets it back. He almost eases them into the game as well.
Correct.
Whereas he didn't have a person to do that today. So not only does he get in control of the game, but he also eases other guys into the game in a kind of subtle way. He's so clever in the way he does it.
Yeah, and they get 30, 40 yards up the pitch every time because of it. No. And Celtic struggled in possession. I thought the midfield just didn't function. It didn't look balanced. Rangers had more men in there. I just think for Barry Ferguson today, you know, as I said, tactically I think he's got it spot on again. But how he's managed to change the mentality of an entire squad, that's quite a thing. That's quite an achievement.
The one guy, I just don't know what you think of this, Swanee, is that on a Celtic point of view, that comes away with positive marks. Nawrocki, maybe. I thought for him to come in those circumstances,
he did well.
I thought he did pretty well. I mean, aside from that though,
I mean, I think
I don't know.
Mike Nawrocki was interesting. I mean, it was such a huge moment for him to be introduced. You know, not a start this season, couple of sub appearances in the cup. He's been out in the cold, and he came in and he did okay individually. You just wonder if there was a sort of cohesion issue with just one or two things with guy. Yeah. He didn't do anything personally wrong. I didn't think greatly in the game. I thought he was okay. I mean, he bailed Schmeichel out in the one when he made the mistake, and Černý got in the first half. So I think he could be pleased enough. But there's just one or two things when you scan through the game again. When for instance, Hamza Igamani's winning goal, it's usually Austin Trusty who goes and attacks the first ball, and Carter Vickers defends off the back of him. Is that just a slight, rather than it being Narowski himself, just a cohesion thing of how things normally work? I don't know. Celtic's coaching staff will know that better than me. But yeah, given the fact he hadn't played for such a long time, I thought he did reasonably well. He certainly wasn't one of the ones who could be picked upon as underperforming. You'd individuals like Nicholas Kuhn who have been sensational for large parts of this season who just didn't turn up. There was too many guys like that in the Celtic team, unfortunately.
I thought Kuhn was awful today. Really poor.
Well, hooked at half time tells you all you need to know what Brendan Rodgers thought of him.
Aye.
But Alistair Johnson, and I rave about Alistair Johnson as well.
He's a brilliant player.
I think a really poor game today.
Aye, very poor.
And even that summed him up at the Igamani winning goal. He slips, he loses his footing. Just little things.
And then I know he's not there to score goals as well, but he's got that chance right
that was
at the
a big
death.
chance.
Huge chance.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how crushed Rangers would be if he'd put that in. You know. So, it wasn't a great day for him.
But I don't know, Swanee, what did you feel? I thought even when Celtic, in the process of getting back to 2-2, I still wasn't convinced that they were clicking. I still wasn't convinced they were... It didn't look like a real 10 out of 10 Celtic performance at any point. Yeah,
the two goals that Celtic scored were probably the only two real passages of play they had in the second half. It's just lovely. They're patient with the first one. There was a couple of guys had opportunities to have a go. They shuttled it wide, got the ball in for the header. Again, Luke McCown was nice and patient for the pass. They were really only the ones. There are only the moments in the second half where it felt really quite cohesive. A lot of the stuff just seemed to be off the cuff and hope for somebody to do something, which is most unlike Celtic. But again, do we put it all back to Callum McGregor? I think maybe you do.
I think you do, Swanee.
It's so understated what this guy does in terms of just everything clicking and working in tandem, and it just wasn't there